Hey YouTube, Awesome Rider here. Welcome to my review for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 109. So this issue, we're continuing our trajectory towards the big Darkest Day event. For an overall solid issue, it's kind of a not a weirdly paced issue in regards to just the story overall, but just in terms of an issue, it definitely felt like the middle chunk of a story where we had a lot of action and story beats happening, but it didn't feel like a beginning, middle, and end, which I guess not all issues have, but this one in particular felt like I was reading the chunk of a story. Like when the comic ended, I'm like, oh, it's ending there. So it was kind of weird in that regard. But it was still a solid issue that got a lot of momentum going. You know, we left off with Draken showing up to recruit Kia because we know they're getting a spin-off series or a one-off spin-off series for Power Rangers Unlimited that's going to tie into Darkest Day, and we're setting up for that. And there was some good dynamics there because obviously Kia does not like Draken because she got visions from Shattered Grid, which is what caused her to fly off the handle when she first saw Tommy in the first place. So there was some interesting dialogue and dynamics there, and sets up what will probably be a pretty interesting team dynamic for the future. And we see them investigating the Master Arch and ultimately escaping out and, setting up for Power Rangers Unlimited. There's also some fun interactions between her and the other Omegas as she repeatedly, jokes about the fact, or gets mad at, it's a joke for us, but she gets mad at the fact that her morpher's been given to a cat. And she's able to pretty easily best both what's the cat's name? Yale, and I always forget the name of the new Yellow Ranger. I think it's Kivo or something. And that is kind of a nice moment, not because they get taken down, but it leads to a nice moment later where Zach sort of comforts Kivor about the failures sometimes that can happen with being a ranger, which was overall nice. So some nice scenes leading into each other there, and a nice setup. You also have stuff with Rita and Zed, which proves to be an interesting dynamic, seeing the two clash, seeing this really interesting dynamic between the two where the status quo is so vastly different than what it is in the show universe, with her being Mistress Vile and having this upper hand, and now Zed being a ranger and her talking about you've become the very thing you swore to destroy. Well, then you are lost! But some good scenes there, some good interactions with Grace as well, especially Rita talking about, Matt, and since they drew parallels before between Rita and the Green Ranger and Grace and her Green Ranger, there was some nice dialogue in those scenes that I liked. You also set up a little bit of the vessel's defiance where she's like, I think she said to take out Grace. She's like, take out Grace, and he's like, no. And he gives a reason, but it's clear they're setting up the vessel thinking more for himself, which was, where we left off with his story with the standalone backstory issue. The main other, primary thing happening, that was a lot of way of saying main. The main primary thing is you have the evil Green Ranger Matt stuff, which I've come around to. I still stand by that it's a little bit boring. Talking about you, Matt. Haven't had my muffin yet, remember? They're pretty self-aware of it, with Kim even riffing on, Evil Green Ranger, we've already done that. I think, again, I hate to reiterate this, but I mainly just wish they had taken more advantage of his character in certain aspects, such as him being a publicly, known ranger, before we got to this. With that being said, him kind of being forgotten, both by the characters and the story, to be quite frankly, outside of the hype of, there's a new Green Ranger, he kind of faded into the background. So I think, ultimately, that kind of worked in the favor of this story. As other people pointed out, it kind of enhances his version of Evil Green Ranger, whereas Tommy was just, mwahaha, I'm under a spell. And obviously we explored the more complex side of that with a character like Draken that stayed evil and played into Tommy's insecurities. But in general, just talking about the evil Green Ranger, having a character that actually has motivation and reason beyond the spell at the start is interesting, because Tommy didn't really have motivation at the start when he was put under the spell because he didn't know anything about any of the players on the board or their situation. So that is rather interesting. And the whole point is they try to break the spell again by breaking the Sword of Darkness. It seems like it worked or did something, but then Matt's just like, get me out of here, get away from me, and he teleports away. So I am curious, because obviously that was the way they broke the spell in the original continuity, both in the show and in the comic universe. However, the whole time it was happening, I was thinking, this is totally going to be a scene where it doesn't work. Just that makes sense, right? And Rita would not be that dumb to tie the overall spell to the sword again. However, it did seem that she did, and obviously it seemed to do something, but I don't think it's going to be that simple for Matt to go back on the side of good. I don't know whether I would prefer it being not tied to that, or whether it's just not going to be so simple, but either way, based on the way we left off, I don't think Matt's going to be kumbaya with them next week and they're going to be reminding us they volunteer for charity like the 90s versions. I think it's going to be more complicated, and despite my mixed feelings, I'm admittedly very interested in this story. But that's pretty much about it for the main things that happened in this issue. We did end off with an invasion arriving. I'm not sure what they were supposed to be. I think I'm being stupid, but was it Dark Spectre's forces or something? But they're arriving on the Omega planet. I think it might be Rita's forces. I'm not sure. There was a lot going on. Regardless, it was a solid issue. I would give it a 4 out of 5 because I was entertained. I thought there was a good mix of action and good character dialogue. It just did feel weirdly paced in regards to it. Felt like I was reading a story and I pulled out the middle part and read it. But what did you guys think of the issue as we head towards the Darkest Day event? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications from my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.